Hey everybody, it is Steve here at Phantom History House, and I'm actually sitting in the library here with a family who has some interesting stories to share with us today. So we're doing this podcast a little bit differently than we've done some others. Audio only this time, but there are some photos on our website where you can check out our visit with the family as well as some of our conversation. But this stems actually from an interaction I had with one of my former podcast guests, Orion Michael, who not only talked to me about the historic and haunted Dunellen train depot, but also shared a little bit about his backstory, or early sightings with the paranormal, which involved his family, which is now sitting in the library with me, which is a very, very cool turn of events. So before we get going into the questions and answers and the conversation part of this, I'm just going to go around the room real quick and have you each introduce yourselves. Just your name, where you live in Florida, and how you identify. Are you psychic? Are you a medium? Are you curious? Are you sensitive? That kind of thing. And to my left, we have Orion, who we have met before on the podcast. So Orion, introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Hello everybody, I'm Orion Michael, psychic medium, tarot reader, ghost hunter, a long laundry list of things.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sadie. I am Orion's wife. I consider myself clairaudient and claircognizant, and I'm a really strong empath.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Sue. I'm Orion's mom. I don't really feel that. I'm empathetic, but I don't think I admit
A little louder for me.
much. And I'm being the quiet one. What's up with that?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Joe, Ryan's father. I'm not sure what I would be considered.
Fourth generation psychic.
Fourth generation psychic, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. I love that. All right.
My name is Alexis, and I am Adam's girlfriend, and I live in Hernando, Florida.
Okay.
And I would say that I'm sensitive to feelings and everything. I can see sometimes, not all the time, certain ghost things. Not only that, I also am very interested and very intrigued.
Okay. Thank you. And
Hi everybody, my name is Adam. I'm Orion's half-brother. I'm an empath. I guess you could say I'm psychic. I do see on occasion. And I guess we'll get into that once we start telling stories.
absolutely. Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And collecting and telling ghost stories is one of my favorite things to do. So you're my people, which is fantastic. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. I guess I'll start with you, Joe. This question is going to be kind of for you. And again, we kind of already asked this question, but it's not a genetic connection that a family has. We don't think it's like a gene thing, but there is a connection from generation to generation to have these abilities. So in your words and your thoughts, how does that work? Any idea? Any thoughts about how that goes?
Oh, that's a really good question. I couldn't tell you for sure.
Okay.
Whether it's genetic. Well, my personal thoughts are we're all connected spiritually anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it follows the line down.
And for you, your mother is very connected, correct?
Yes, it's kind of scary growing up with a mother who can read.
I bet.
Yeah. You can't get away with much.
You're always under the watchful eye of mom in that situation.
Yes, but we're also connected from past lives, which is a thing that I like to follow and get into.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially family, we're all connected one way or another, and that could go back generation beyond generation, hundreds of years. So we all kind of stay together.
Mm-hmm.
Her and I have been together in past lives.
Okay.
So we're all connected, whether male, female, however it works out.
Well, I know that Orion and I had like a brief conversation one time during our conversation that you said, you've had past lives and you want to get to that point where you have it figured out and you don't, I don't think you said you have to come back, but there's no need to come back because you've learned what you've had to learn.
Yeah, so the way it was described to me by my grandmother Marie was we come to Earth to learn lessons, and eventually you run out of lessons. You learn all of the lessons you need, and once you reach your final stage per se, you get a choice. You can stay, or you can come back and learn whatever's left if there is anything left, and stay and help people. And like for my grandmother Noreen, this is her last cycle. She's reached that final plateau. She's done everything she's needed in every past life, and she won't have to come back after this.
Oh.
That's just an example.
I'm pretty sure this is my first because I know nothing. So I appreciate you guys all sharing with me what's going on here today. Now, as I said before, I love collecting ghost stories. So, of course, that's the whole reason we're here to chat. And we have no specific format. So if you are listening, please forgive us if it's a little rocky. We're just having a conversation here. This is how it goes here at Phantom History House whenever we have guests. If you book a stay, we gather in the library or in our potion room and just kind of have a conversation. And we're a safe space to talk about this kind of stuff. We want everybody to know that even if you've had an experience that I don't understand or I don't know how it works, that doesn't mean it didn't happen to you. And we want you to be able to share that. Even if I don't understand it, it doesn't negate it. So this is a safe space. And I just want to remind everybody that when you do tell your story, just speak up a little bit and lean in a little bit to the microphone so everybody who's listening can hear it. So again, no specific format. I have seen some things like out of the corner of my eye. We've seen a couple things in the house. During the pandemic of 2020, I did see some things in the home I was living in very clearly. There were 3 specific entities that I actually saw, which freaked me out because I'd never really had that kind of experience before, which kind of made me more interested in people who have done this for a long time to kind of learn about how that works, what they see, how they react. And what was most surprising for me was I wasn't afraid when I saw these 3. I was more fascinated than anything and wanted to, like the old journalist student of me kicked in and I wanted to ask them questions. Next best thing, I get to talk to the people who have seen these things, and you can answer my questions or at least share your experiences. So I wanted to ask, my first question is, what, at least in this group, how old were you when you had your first paranormal experience? Whether it's sensing, hearing, seeing, something. And who would like to answer that first? You're about ready. Adam?
I was 4 or 5.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm not really good with years and ages and stuff like that, but one of my first experiences, I was sleeping on the couch, and I had fallen asleep with my shoes on.
Okay.
And I wake up to what I thought was my mom taking my shoes off.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes got taken off, got set down on the ground, and all I seen was a woman wearing a white dress.
Mm.
I wake up the next morning and I said, "Hey, Mom, did you take my shoes off last night?" "No, I didn't." "Why?" "Somebody did." You know?
Right.
I don't know who, but somebody did.
And you saw this person?
Yeah, I saw a woman standing there.
Okay.
Well, she was sitting on the couch and she had my feet up on her lap. She was taking my shoes off.
Okay. So obviously not a threatening
No.
entity, something like taking care of you.
Yeah.
And you were like kindergarten, first grade age-ish.
Yeah, somewhere in
Okay.
that neighborhood.
Okay. What was your reaction to that when your mom was like, "I didn't do that"?
To be honest with you, I wasn't like, I was a little shocked, but at the same time, you know, little me was like, huh, that's odd, you know. Like, I wasn't freaked out, but I was at the same time. Like, it's kind of weird to describe. Like, I wasn't like freaked out, but at the same time, I'm sitting there scratching my head, like.
So more curious. Than
Yeah,
anything. Like what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that similar for the rest of you about that age when you had your first experience? I know you were about ready to say something.
Mine was like a little bit like 8 or 9. 8 or 9. It was at my current house that I actually live in. I was hanging out with my friend. Me and my friend were having a little thing, and I was in my little brother's room that was across from where I sleep originally, like my room and then his room. And I was in there, we were playing, I don't know what we were doing, we were just talking, having a great time, and I had my phone light on. My phone light went off, and I saw this tall man that was in the corner of the room that was darker than everything else. Mm-hmm. He was standing there staring at both of us. She freaked out. I was a little shocked, but I was also curious of why he was there, and then she found the phone, turned it on, and it was gone.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, that happened.
What do I do with this information? You said you were about 8 or 9, you said?
8 or 9, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, since we're kind of starting a circle, Joe, how about you? When was your first experience?
Most of my experiences, probably about the same age. The one that stands out the most, let me go back a little bit. I used to be able to tell things before they would happen. Like I would know my dad was going to be in the driveway before he pulled in.
Okay.
So
some kind of premonition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the one that stands out, and I've been waiting to tell this story because I told him about it. What really made it all click is I used to live in Chicago, Illinois, and we had a 100-foot driveway, and my father was a fisherman. What he would, he had bought this boat. He was so proud of this thing, and he had it in the garage. So I was walking down the driveway, and I turned around, and I think I was probably 10, give or take. I turned around, and I saw the boat lift up, and I saw somebody fall out the back of it. Didn't really click at that point. But plain as day, I turned around, I saw it all happen. I went back to what I was doing. I was going to hang out with my friends. So I told my mother about that. And she kind of looked at me, and I didn't know a whole lot about the family. I didn't know much about it at the time. Well, she had talked to my father about it. So he came to me and said, "Why didn't you tell me that?" So I didn't know. Well, as it turns out, the former owner of that boat fell off and he passed away.
Okay.
So I saw it. I saw the boat get hit. I saw him fall off the back. He died. My dad sold the boat the next day.
Didn't want to hang on to it.
That is a true story.
So when you saw this reenactment, like, was it like, could you picture the guy? Like, could you pick him out in a lineup, or was it just like this?
It was
shadowy.
It was. All I remember is he had dark hair.
Okay. So you could see some features, but it's
Yeah.
not like me looking at you.
Right.
Right, not that clear.
Yeah, it was just I literally saw the boat pick up, shift, and I saw him fall off the back.
Wow.
And it was like, okay.
Remember when we talked about stone tape theory?
Yes.
About traumatic events being absorbed into the things around them. That's why entities get attached to objects and attached to grounds and attached to a boat.
Yeah.
And reenact it because it was a traumatic event.
Yeah. It's traumatic, all right.
How long had your dad owned the boat before this happened?
Probably a month.
Okay, so not very long at all.
And I remember anyway.
Okay. Did he get another boat after that?
When he passed away, he had 4 of them.
Okay, so
okay.
so he got past that part, was able to get
Oh,
more
yeah.
boats. Okay, that's good. All right. Wow, that's fascinating. And yeah, that had to have you, like Adam was saying, scratching your head, like, what did I just see?
It took a while to sink in, but
Yeah. But then you knew. You knew you had
I
this
knew there was
ability.
something there. So
Yeah.
we started asking questions, and my mother started filling me in over the years as to how things went.
Okay. Wow. And it's good that you had that, connection to your mother to kind of help you explain those things. And we talked a little bit before we started recording about how that's a challenge for some kids who like don't have that. It's like, oh, it's your imagination. You didn't see anything, and then really they can. Now, you two are married.
Yes.
But you also have some abilities.
I do, but mine are more when I'm in my subconscious, I guess, where you're sleeping. I was probably in my 20s. We built our house in Lehigh in 2000, and we didn't realize that the area that we had built on was like an old cemetery, an Indian burial grounds. But I remember one night waking up, and there was a bunch of dolls on the foot of the bed, and it freaked me out. And the next morning, I woke him up. When we woke up, I looked at Joe. I was like, I woke up and I saw a bunch of like porcelain dolls at the foot of our bed. I said, I'm not quite sure, but my stepmother used to collect dolls.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if it was her visiting me in my sleep.
So kind of like a sign that I'm here, but it's not a verbal, hey, I'm here. It's
Right.
More like a
What kind of
signal.
dolls were they? The Russian ones that go inside each other, or were they?
No, like the creepy ones that like you think stare at you
Porcelain
when you're
dolls?
Like the porcelain dolls with the Victorian dresses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is a story we always tell everybody who stays here. Phantom History House has 4 themed bedrooms. One of them is not a doll room for that very reason, because it creeps us out too. So we do not have a doll room.
Wait, wasn't that doll over there?
Yeah, we don't do that. We don't do that part here. So this was how long ago when this happened? Any idea?
Well, we were in the Ted house, so I was probably in my 20s. But I don't know exactly when
Okay.
it was. And I've come across one other entity that was a nasty, scary thing that lived in our closet at the
Oh, yeah.
Delta House, where
Yes.
the airport and the
Which you've
cemetery.
mentioned before. Which,
I mentioned it in the podcast before and stuff like that. The Delta House.
yeah, so we're
Lots of experience.
going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, because that's a whole.
Yeah, but before we get to
Weird.
that, I want to go over to you. I know you have. I think the question was when, like, the earliest recollection you have of something that you've encountered.
There's really no like age, but I started recently talking to my biological like father because I'm adopted, and like I told him I got married in this family that's really like, psychic, and then I guess I've been seeing stuff since I was like really young. I used to see like brown figures, like just mostly like shadows, figures, and then I would tell my father about it when we hung out, and he was like, yeah, I used to see stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean? You used to see like brown figures. You would tell me about it. And I'm like, okay. And then my dad didn't really understand it at first. But then I guess later in life, because we just started recently reconnecting, he realized, oh, brown figures mean angels or something like that. So I used to see like figures and not really realize what it was. I also had a lot of imaginary friends too. So there was really no like set age, I guess, for me. And a lot of the paranormal experiences I've had were like correlated to a lot of traumatic events I've had in my life. I've noticed.
Okay.
I
So
guess,
kind of connected to the energy that you're experiencing at the time.
yes, a little bit. Like there was one moment, I was like maybe 7, 8, 9. I was sitting in my bedroom, and it was like snowing. And I remember the day too. It was March 31st, believe it or not. And it was like kind of sleet, raining. I lived in Minnesota at the time, and I was sitting in my bedroom. My biological grandfather came up. And he asked me, do you want to go to Aldi's with me, the grocery store? I used to love going places with him a lot. And I was like thinking about it. I kind of look out the window, and then all of a sudden I get this voice in my head saying, don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go. And I'm like, okay. It was like a whisper. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And I kind of like put two and together, and I was really young too. And I'm like, holy crap, like I shouldn't go with him. So then my grandpa's like, let me know if you want to go. And he's like, I'm about to leave soon. And I'm like, no, don't go. And he's like, what are you talking about? I need to go. And I'm like, just don't go. I can't tell you why, just don't go. And then he had to go. And 4 hours later, 5 hours later, we had a call from the officer saying he was in a really bad car accident.
Wow.
He almost died. Yeah, it was not good.
So if you had been with him,
I would have been dead.
You might not have made it.
I would have been dead. He had a 95 Ford Ranger pickup truck. My cousin with him at the time, he would have been the bigger seat, the passenger seat. I would have been in the middle where there was no seatbelt, and he was the driver, and he got like hit. It was really close to home too.
Okay.
And he actually, when he got hit, he actually fell out of the windshield. Like it was really bad.
Okay. But he survived.
He survived, believe it or not. He had like some broken ribs and like something of his head, and then my cousin got like something wrong with his neck. The disc came out, and he had to have like a halo for a couple of years.
And if you had been in there, you probably wouldn't have been so lucky.
No, I would have been dead.
Yeah. Wow.
No.
So definitely a almost like a guardian angel type situation.
Yes.
In that. Wow.
Very calm voice. I was like, because I was like freaked out at first, but then I was like calm.
Yeah.
I was young too. I know I was like 7, 8, 9, but calm.
It's good that you listened.
Yeah.
It's important. Not a lot of 7, 8-year-olds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm glad I listened.
Good for you. That brings us back to you, Orion. I know you shared a little bit about this before when we talked before, but what is one of your earliest memories of encountering something not of this world?
We did talk about it the last time we did speak. It was me being possessed in the Delta House, which has already been mentioned. So this house, which we did find out was on the Buckingham airfield in Buckingham or Lehigh Acres, Florida. And there was a little boy who was in my room, and he loved to possess me. I will never in my life forget the feeling of being possessed. It's like my body had been separated. My whole head was spinning, and as it was spinning, it felt like the spins were getting bigger and bigger the farther I got away from my body. And then the little boy would take over, and my parents can give you all the stories of when I was possessed, because obviously I don't remember any of that. I just remember waking up in their bed, and they're like, "You remember last night?" I'm like, "No, why am I here?"
So for you, it's like kind of like a gap in your
Yeah,
memory.
getting possessed, you pretty much almost get like forced out of your body, and you
Wow.
don't remember anything. It's very, very weird. You just kind of like get put on a shelf, like I'm taking control, thanks.
But it's not like you're on a shelf and you get to watch what's happening.
No,
Somebody tells you later.
I've heard of things where people do remember being possessed, but in most cases, nobody remembers. they just wake up and they're like, "Whoa, was I sleeping?"
So of course, this takes me back to mom and dad. You were, what, 10-ish?
How old do you think I was?
That
That would have been in like 2004,
We moved
right?
into that house in 2009. And we were there
Okay.
from 2009 until 2011. I think is when we went
That would
into
have
the
put
other
me
house.
at 11.
Okay, so 11 years old.
That's the age, yeah.
So, mom and dad, how did you know that something was going on with Orion, that he was possessed or something was happening? What were the signs?
The first time he came in, I just thought he was sleepwalking. Because I don't remember him talking to us at all.
Yeah, he was-
But his eyes were wide open, and he literally walked from one side of the house all the way across the house
Yeah, he was
to
like-
our room.
Yeah.
And
So,
it happened more than once.
so was there, I mean, I remember sleepwalking when I was a kid. I've seen people sleepwalk. Was there what made you realize that, okay, this wasn't a sleepwalk situation? Did something change?
When he was finally started talking to us, that wasn't his personality.
And it wasn't like a little kid's voice.
Mm.
The second time, I think it was like a little kid's voice.
So a different
was
personality
really-
and a different voice.
Really
Yes.
freaky.
Yeah, it was very bizarre.
Do you remember what it said or the context of the...
No, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something you like want to ruminate on all the time either, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it was. I'm having flashbacks of him coming in, like she said, eyes wide open, blank stare on his face, and I just remember asking him questions, and the answers is not something my son would say, and just completely different personality.
Okay.
And
And of course, this is the middle of the night. So
Yes.
you come into your room. So, what did you just say? It's okay, crawl into bed, go back to
Yes.
sleep? Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you did?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. And after what, the third or fourth time,
Yeah, I don't even know.
yeah, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he says, "Well, there's some people, ghost hunters, in your area." He said, "Let me give them a call and see if we can connect you." So they actually came in. It was a couple. They came in with the EMF meters and went through the house, and they did history on the house.
We'll have to see if we can find the paperwork if
Yeah.
you saved it. I think we might have put it in the safe,
It's possible.
but I don't know if I would think that we would still have it
I,
because it's something that was really cool and unique.
it was unique, all right.
But the one, we learned that there was the mother and son that lived either on the Air Force base or whatever. Their father or husband was a nasty, nasty man, and that's who I would see. But the one time that scared me, and I think I literally screamed and woke him up out of a dead sleep because it came, you know those like scary looking Halloween costumes where they have like all the teeth?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I opened my eyes up and saw coming out of my closet, and my side of the bed was literally right there
Wow.
next to the closet, and I was like, I couldn't go back to sleep after that. I think we moved out of that house not
Yeah,
long
right
after.
after that.
Yeah. So you said it had an interesting background, the house did. And I know you don't have the paperwork in front of you, but like what generally was it like an older house? Did something bad happen there?
Well, it wasn't the house. It was
the property.
It was the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
The boy died.
I think they died in a fire. I think the mom and son
Something
died in
to
a
that
fire. I
Something
think the
to that
father
effect.
set the fire.
Yeah,
That's
like
actually
he was
news to me.
nasty.
I don't even remember that.
He was a
Yeah.
nasty, nasty, nasty guy.
Just, and I wish I could find the paperwork because they gave us the whole history,
Of the battlefield, the like they pulled up
the maps.
the maps and stuff of where the runways were for the Air Force base that was there.
Mm-hmm.
It dated back like you can drive by the actual base and there's a sign that gives you like a little bit of information on Buckingham Airfield and the year that it was established.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 1800s
I have no
and something.
idea.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, the boy and the mother had died on the property. So, and like she said, it could have been a fire. I honestly don't remember.
It was horrific.
Yeah, but it was horrific, and they were stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
And like she said, the man kept them there.
Yeah.
He was a very nasty, nasty person. And that caused problems with him. The boy was trying to communicate with us through him, which led to us bringing the people in, and they went through through the whole house and did, you know.
They cleared the house. I think that was the only reason why we were able to stay there
Well,
for the
let's
little
put it
bit
this
of
way.
time.
When they came through, I was standing in the kitchen. I do remember this, and I was overwhelmed. I could not move. I couldn't talk. I just stood there shaking because they were getting close to figuring it out. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah.
So, as I guess you could say, an empath, or however you want to say it,
Yeah.
that was not fun.
You know what that sounds like to me is the husband or whatever kind of took over you in a sense. You connected with him and he was really worried about them figuring it out. That's what it sounds
It
like
could
to me.
be. All I know is I remember that. I try and block a lot of that time out, just because
It caused a lot of issues,
we had
marital
problems,
issues.
yes.
It was bad. It was a bad
sure.
time. Those few years were really bad.
Yeah. But
So this makes me want to ask, I guess ask you, Orion, we hear about imaginary friends that a lot of kids have.
Mhm.
Was this kind of that situation? You don't remember seeing the boy, right?
To be honest, I don't remember having imaginary friends at all in my life ever.
I don't think you
I've
did.
never seen him or anything. It wasn't until like after the investigators came that I was like, oh, there's a little boy here. Let me try and talk to him and all that. That's just me being a curious kid. But I don't, other than being possessed, that's all I remember.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that story. Like you said, it was not a super bright time in your lives, so I appreciate you sharing that with me. So after you move on from something like that, and this question is kind of for all of you, you have an experience that kind of is life-changing, or like opens up your eyes. You're like, holy cow. How do you perceive the world after that? Are you like always looking for like, that's not exactly right? Or do you just like live your life and then you recognize when something's not right? How does that impact you out in the real world?
For me, whenever I experience something like that, I kind of just process it and then I move on. I try not to let it affect my daily life, but once I figured out I had a certain ability or a certain gift, it definitely made me look at the world different. It made me look at myself different.
Okay.
Because I look at myself and go, okay, now you have this ability. Where do we go from here?
What do I do with it? Right?
Yeah, and anytime I ever had an experience, I just always looked at what's going on with my life, what am I doing that's causing me to see this?
Right. What's it connected to?
Yeah, what's it connected to?
Have you ever, and this question is for you, Adam, have you ever had an experience that was just like terrifying, where you're like, I do not want to be near this?
I actually have it wrote down. I have a couple of different instances. Growing up in Kentucky, it's a very historic state. Paravel Battlefield was like 30 minutes from my house. I had Old Fort Herod. I had the town I grew up in was Danville, Kentucky, and it is the founding place of Kentucky statehood. Right. So there's a lot of history in that ground, in that land. And of course, we talked about residual energy. Mm-hmm. So probably the most notable, the most terrifying experience for me was I started seeing like shadows in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I was wide awake. I was buzzing. My whole body was buzzing. And I was at my parents' door, and I just so happened to look over. Now, we had L-shaped stairs, and then you would walk around the corner, and then you'd walk straight back, and then my parents' room was right there, so you could look straight down the stairwell. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something, and I turn and I look, and there's a Civil War soldier, full body apparition, walking at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay.
And it's like he was on patrol. And I was froze.
Right.
I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. And then just before I moved out, actually, I had an experience where we were talking earlier before we hit record that, you start getting validation. You're not, it's one of those, yay, I'm not crazy, but what is that?
Yep.
Right. We checked one thing off the list. I'm not crazy, but something else is up.
Yeah. So I had just gotten out of the shower. I was the only one in the house. Okay. I lived in a 3-story it was just creepy house. Like, it's still home to me, but it was just, there's something weird about it. you know. So I just got out of the shower, and I'm pretty sure we all know that animals can see things we can't.
Right.
So I'm at the foot of the bed, and my cat at the time was at the head of the bed. My door was open, and I'm sitting there, and I just so happen to look over, and I see something out of the corner of my eye. I see a black shadow come in. Like, okay, you know what? You're just seeing things, nothing. My cat picks his head up, looks at the shadow, and follows it. And it walks right behind me, and my hair stands up.
Right.
It walks right behind me and stops to my left. And the cat's sitting there staring at it. And like I said before, I'm not crazy. But what's that?
Yep.
You know? It's kind of one of those, like, victory, but wait.
Victory, but still danger. I need to know
Yeah.
what's happening. Yeah.
I looked to my left, and it gone.
Okay.
Just disappeared, gone. I was shaking. I was terrified. And I look back. My cat looks at me, shrugs his shoulders, and lays his head back down and goes right back to sleep.
Right.
How can you sleep? You know,
He
like,
sees it all the time. He's good.
you know. And then after that, I just went to bed. But you know, when you have instances like that, it shakes you to the bone almost. Like,
Right.
You just don't know what it is, especially when it passes that close to you. Like, you can feel the energy coming off of it.
Well, which is an interesting phenomenon, because you hear people talk about cold spots, warm spots, connected to a spirit. Did you feel anything like that? Did it get cold, or?
It didn't get cold, but I definitely felt like almost electricity.
Okay.
My hair stands up. Like, it feels like electricity. I get goosebumps. And the freaky part was as the energy got closer, where it was in relation to my body is the hair that stood up. So
like followed a path.
yeah, it followed a path
Okay.
all across my body.
Well, I've heard, I don't know if this is right, and you may or may not, but I've heard that, it's not necessarily a cold spot that we feel, it's the energy interacting with us that we feel that we interpret as like a cold spot.
Yep.
No idea if that's true. But I have heard that other people with the abilities of everybody around this table has, not me, everybody else. That's why I was curious, because people always say that. I've also heard that mean spirits are cold and happy spirits are warm. I don't know if that's a thing. But that's the thing, is there's so much we don't know about it all.
Yeah.
So obviously that was terrifying. You said there was another experience that you had.
I was at a friend's house. Now, my friend's house, I lived in a neighborhood, and my friend's house was the owner of the construction company who built the neighborhood.
Okay.
The room he stayed in was the man who built all the houses, the owner of the construction company. Well, he had passed away in the house. And apparently he was just a mean, nasty person. Nobody really liked him. He kind of just kept to himself. One night, his girlfriend and I were upstairs. He had just went downstairs. We were about to follow behind. I was grabbing my keys and stuff. We were about to go out. And his girlfriend's standing in front of me. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a tall, black shadow walk in. And you could just feel you almost feel dread.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just feel the energy off of him. And he walks into the master bedroom, or the master bathroom. And I'm pale at this point. I am frozen. And my buddy's girlfriend looks at me and says, "What's wrong? What?" And she turns around and goes, "Oh," grabs me, and we run downstairs.
So she saw it too?
Yeah, she saw it too. And that's what I was meaning about validation. Like, when you're not the only one seeing it, that's when it gets that's when it hits home. You're like, okay, now is the time to panic.
Right. Well, let me, and this is for the whole room too, but start with you. Is there a flip side of this? Have you had an encounter that you're like, oh, this is great, I know who this is welcoming and happy? Does that happen?
Yeah, it does happen. I can't recall if I've ever had a moment like that or not.
I have.
You have?
I saw your grandfather or
Oh,
somebody.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw somebody, I was sleeping in the bed with him, and I woke up because I felt a presence. I looked, and was it...
It was my great grandfather.
He was a fireman.
Yeah, he was a firefighter.
Yeah, I saw him in his gear, on the other side of the bed, and he was over on Adam's side, and he looked at me, he looked at Adam, he turned around and started walking out, and he disappeared.
Wow. Okay.
And I've seen her father.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. I woke up in the middle of the night. I felt like something was there. And I look up and I see a man in a plaid shirt standing there, and he kind of looks at me. He kind of did that, oh crap, I've been spotted, and disappeared. You know?
He's like, no. Oh no.
So,
the other ghosts are going to laugh at me. I got spotted.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I did see her father one
Yep.
night.
He passed away in 2011 whenever I was 7 years old, and he passed away in front of me at the hospital. When he did pass, whenever I went to go see him, I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to draw you something, because, he can probably still hear. I didn't know. I was a little kid. I didn't know anything at the time. So I told him that, and he seemed like he got a little happy, like I could kind of tell. Turned around. As soon as I turned around, the machine went flatline.
Wow.
And I'm like, I was shocked, and then all of a sudden, because there was no air in there besides the top air, and there was no vents on the floor, there was air that came from the bottom of my right foot all the way up my leg, and then it was gone. And I'm assuming that was my dad saying, goodbye, I'm still going to be with you type thing. And then I was crying, of course, the whole family was there. And then after that, I didn't see my family for 15 years from my dad's side of the family.
Wow.
I was just recently able to go, thanks to Adam, I was recently able to go reconnect with my dad's side of the family last year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of came full circle finally.
Yes.
And like I said, not all of these encounters are terrifying. Some of them are comforting and warm. Yeah. And I know you were saying you had an experience that was kind of similar. That was maybe not similar, but comforting.
Similar, but I didn't see anything. It was like the week before it happened, March of 2020. We were in Savannah, Georgia. Me and my were we married or no?
Probably.
No, we weren't. We were actually dating still. It was the week before everything went down because my birthday is March 12th, and I remember March 13th everything kind of just shut down.
Right.
And we were in Savannah, Georgia, and I just got this presence that there was someone there with me. I just didn't know who it was at first. And then we went into the hotel room in Pooler, Georgia. And as soon as I walked in that hotel room, I smelled like a really strong scent, almost like a Elizabeth Taylor, like a powder smell, like an old grandma feel. I'm like, this smells very familiar. And then I realized, oh, this is probably my grandmother. I'm like, Grandma, are you here? Because I smell you. I would smell things, and I would feel her presence when I was there. And I'm like, okay. And then we went to what was it? We were there for the fair, right?
Yeah, fair.
And then I got this drawing. One of these ladies is drawings of her, and she drew my grandmother.
Really?
Yeah. And then I just start bawling because now that I'm thinking of it, she's like, yeah, this image should look familiar to you because you have something at home. Just talk to your mom about it. There's an image, and it does make sense now because there was an image when I was younger of either my mom or my grandmother when they were really young, and they have an older shirt, and she drew something very similar, but my grandmother was younger. And yeah, I just started bawling because I felt her the whole time we were in Savannah. Right. It was really strange.
Wow.
But I knew she was there in a weird way.
Did she have a connection to Savannah, or
no?
No, it was just with you.
Yeah, just with me.
Okay, keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
How did you embrace that? Was it a great feeling? Were you comforted?
I was comforted and happy.
Okay.
I felt comforted. I had a feeling it was her. Because as soon as I went in the hotel, I'm like, who's here? Something's here in this hotel room with me. I smelt her scent in a way. She loved Elizabeth Taylor.
Okay. This reminds me of a ridiculous story about myself. When we first moved into this house, we really wanted it to be haunted. We wanted something spooky to happen. And we had a couple minor things. And I was in here in this room dusting we're in the library again, and I was dusting all this stuff. And I'm like, I had my little Swiffer duster. I keep smelling this very floral scent. I'm like, I'm picking up something. And I'm walking around, and I can't find it. And I'm looking around. I'm like, well, the history of the house, who has been here, what could possibly happen? And I'm getting excited. And I tell my husband Tim, I'm like, oh, I think I picked up on something. Until I went to go get another Swiffer rag, and I saw that they were scented as lavender. And I was like, damn it. So I got myself excited for nothing. So again, you have to think these things through. It doesn't always happen. And, you know, not to put you on the spot, but I see you got emotional during her story. And I wondered if you would mind sharing what happened. Did you have a connection, or did you sense something, or...
Just got overwhelmed with emotion.
Okay.
She cries at commercials, okay?
Because I'm very, very empathetic. We'll be watching a show and people we don't even know, they'll start talking about things that happened to them, and we're like, he always runs up, he's like grabbing paper towels or...
He got there
it's
before I
bad.
could.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so connected.
It's annoying, but in retrospect, it's
also a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
It's also interesting because my biological grandmother died on my husband's 21st birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the grandmother.
Wow.
I think 2018 she died. June 13, 2018. When we first started dating.
Oh, yes, your shot of water that you wouldn't take. Yeah, the bartender brought him a shot, but it was water.
Yeah, it was that day that
And
she
he
died.
refused
Yeah.
to drink it, and we're like, son, it's just water. He's like, no, I don't want it.
I'm doing it. All right. Well, you know, it just struck me, and we kind of talked about this already. I mean, you two are a couple. You two are a couple. You two are a couple.
Yep.
All six of you have an ability to connect. What are the chances of that happening? You know, is my question. I mean, do you, not to get anybody in any kind of trouble.
There's a website.
Is there a website?
Spiritsonly.com.
Spirits. Let's market that. Let's make that happen. So, I mean, how is that? Do you think that's part of what attracted you to each other, or was that?
I would probably say yes, and it depends, because to be honest, I was going through things in my life, and then winded up getting to meet new friends, leaving past friends that are not good, you know, going into different friend groups and better friend groups, and then it was kind of like a connection that we just met each other, and then
Yeah, it just kind of happened.
yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, we found out, you know, we both had abilities, and you know, and it's just, it's how the universe works, I guess.
Yeah. So it's not like you sat down at your first date and said, "So, how many ghosts have you seen?"
No.
That's not how that happens.
No, but I would say the thing, I know they all have their family or somebody that is spiritually connected. I'm not sure who on my side is, because maybe my mom is, but she doesn't want to admit it. She will not admit it. She refuses.
Okay.
And this is why I can't really talk to her about it, because she freaks out or she doesn't believe it.
Okay.
So, but I think possibly my father is the one that probably was able to be more spiritual connected. Unfortunately, I didn't get that chance to know anything from him.
Right.
But she refuses. My stepdad, I have a new stepdad. I don't know if he believes in anything. He probably doesn't, or he probably does. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
But I think it might be to my dad's side of the family. More of my dad's side than my mom's. So I think I got it from that side.
Okay. And, you know, again, to my point, I just find it fascinating that, you know, you are coupled with somebody who has abilities. And I'm curious about you two as well. I mean, did you know right away that you both had, like, this connection? Or did that come later, like, in marriage? Or how did that come about?
No, I think when we were dating, you had gotten your cards read, and the gentleman was telling me that we were together in past lives, like I think 2 different past lives.
Yeah.
And we had just found each other again after all the years.
Okay.
And when I first met him, I didn't really believe, I thought he was full of it. But when you sit and actually talk with somebody...
Yeah. Well, I played in an obnoxious rock band, and we lived in the place next door, so she moved in.
Yeah, I lived in the front part of the duplex, and he lived in the back part of the duplex. We shared a living room wall. A
Interesting.
very thin living room wall.
I love that.
Yeah.
Drums.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking.
No loud parties, no drums going on in the house, but loud parties.
Okay.
That's when the walls were decorated with liquor bottles. Much
His
like
kitchen, yeah.
Much like the room in here.
Yes.
Guilty.
The potion room with Patron.
How long have you two been married?
It'll be 24 years in November.
Congrats.
We've been together for, let's see, Birdie will be 32 this year.
Yes.
Their
So
wedding
31 years
anniversary's-
total.
Their wedding anniversary is 2 days before ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we got a grandbaby coming that's due on their anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, my sister.
Well, that makes it easy to remember dates.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything's in November.
Yeah? Okay.
Everything.
Busy month.
My birthday.
November is a busy month.
We just had one party and get it all over with.
There you go. Like a band-aid. Now that brings me to you two over here. The same question. How long did it take you to realize you both had a connection?
To be honest, I don't know.
We were connected by music, honestly, at
We
first.
were.
Mhm.
I didn't realize you were spiritually connected until you told me, oh yeah, I do this. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Well, we found out just recently. I was at Karma Cottage in Crystal River doing a fair, and I finally got to sit down and get to learn about past lives from our friend Debbie. And she told me, even though we kind of already knew that my wife and I had been together in every past life, and in most of the past lives, she was always some sort of royalty and princess, kind of like she is in this life. And I was always
Dang.
some sort of peasant
Okay.
or worker.
All right.
The life that stands out the most that we were told that keeps coming back up is she was royalty,
I was
and I was
royalty.
your carriage driver,
Yeah.
and we
Had an
eloped
affair.
and
Eloped. Yeah.
got married and
I was
ran
supposed to
away.
engage with someone
plumber?
else.
Well,
He was my chauffeur.
Okay.
He keeps driving me around.
Yeah.
All right, for you,
He
Mary.
does that now.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of running themes about that. Is what carries in past lives and everything like that. Is even in this life, her adoptive family is actual royalty. They own one of the largest countertop companies actually the
Southwest
largest
Florida.
countertop company in Southwest Florida. They are royalty. Everybody knows them.
Mhm.
We were just at the courthouse with her official adoption, and the security guards were recognizing her grandfather, calling him Mr. Cornerstone. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, royalty takes all kinds of forms, and obviously that is that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I love about paranormal conversations is that it's such a large umbrella. It covers everything from I saw a ghost to is there Bigfoot and I saw an alien. It's like all this stuff, which is really, really cool. And past lives is something I don't know that much about. So this is kind of a question for the room. Past lives and residual energy. Is there a connection there, or are those two separate things?
There's a connection.
There's a connection.
I believe so.
Okay. How so? Is it like a reflection of that past life, or what do you
There's
think?
6 of us sitting in the room.
Yes.
We're all connected from a past life.
Oh,
And it's
valid
all
point.
residual.
We're already like at 50 minutes, so we're gonna slowly start wrapping this up. But kind of on our way, as we make an exit here, I want to ask each of you again about not necessarily the scariest or the most heartfelt, but the experience. Like if you could give like an elevator speech about the experience for you that you're just like, okay, this is legit. I want to be public about this. I'm not afraid to talk about it. Is there a situation that stands out for you? And you may have already shared it. Where you say, okay, I have this ability, I'm going to embrace it, and then I'm moving forward with this. I know it's a very broad question, but kind of like those life-changing kind of things. And I don't know who wants to answer that first, or if you even have an answer for it. If you don't, that's totally fine too.
I guess I have an answer for it.
Okay.
So a lot of my paranormal experiences, I used to play with the Ouija board when I was younger. I haven't got at a garage sale. Me and my sister used to play with it. I would play with it. We'd always, follow the rules, say goodbye, say hello, that kind of thing. But whenever we started playing with it, weird stuff started happening in my house at the time where I lived. This was I was 10, 11, or 12, really preteens. There was one experience where I woke up in the middle of the night. I felt, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up in the middle of the night, very drawn to my front door for whatever reason. Somebody told me, go to the front door, go to the front door. I'm like, okay. So I wake up, I go downstairs, and I don't know if I remember it correctly, but I just opened the door, and I remember seeing this mirage-like figure, but it was a wolf. It was a straight up wolf.
Wow.
And I remember it having glowing eyes, yellow, golden eyes. I don't remember if it was white or a light brown. It just looked at me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I say out loud, pinch me, I must be dreaming. Am I really seeing this? And it's floating almost in a way. And I'm like, pinch me, I must be dreaming. I'm pinching myself. Legit, as I'm sitting here, the door's open, and I'm pinching myself, and I'm like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I start freaking out a little bit after I realize it's real, and I shut the door, going back upstairs in my room, and I sit there for a couple minutes, go back downstairs, open the door, and it's gone.
Okay.
But at that time, when I saw him, I guess it was a him, I don't know what it was, but like, it's almost like it wanted me to follow him. But previously, before then, weird stuff happened before that happened. Once that happened, my house started calming down, and I stopped using the Ouija board.
Okay.
Before then, I think the night before, I got attacked by a very aggressive spirit. Yeah, it was like one of those spirits that attack women in their sleep. Like almost like sleep paralysis. I was like laying on my bed, and I was laying on my back. I don't sleep on my back anymore because of that experience.
Okay.
I sleep on my side or my belly now because of that experience. And it was like on top of me. It was like the Grudge.
Right.
It looked like the Grudge spirit. The hair was like this. It was black. And it was just on top of me, and his hands around my neck. And I'm like struggling to like scream, but I can't scream. No one can hear me.
Wow.
And then I wake up, and I'm like catching my breath.
Wow. I was sleeping on my stomach too.
Yeah. and then I found out really, I guess my cousin Amy at the time, I don't really talk to my biological family anymore. I guess I found out like wolves, or like they're there when like, I don't know how to explain it. They're there when you need it. Like it's almost like a spiritual like alarm. Like, oh, something's happening. And like it kind of calmed down after that.
But there's so much symbolism in a lot of this too, which is I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for sharing that. That's very, very cool. Anybody else want to add a story if they have one?
I mean, I do have a story, but it was like, I already knew everything. Like, I kind of already knew that I could see things and everything, but it was whenever I was older. I think I was 19 or 18.
Okay.
I went to, I was with a group of friends, and we were in Jacksonville, and we saw an abandoned school. And we're like, hey, you know, we're going to go check it out.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So we went in there, and as we were walking, all of us stopped, and we kept on hearing footsteps following us. But there was no one else there besides us. So I'm like, okay, this is something. And then we kept on exploring and everything, and we kept on feeling like somebody was following us. There was a bunch of things. But unfortunately, we had to go through underneath the school to get in.
Okay.
So as soon as we came through the floor, I realized we entered into a classroom. And I could feel that there was a bunch of kids that were doing class. In there was a bunch of different like energies, like a lot of kids that were, it felt like a bunch of kids that were sitting, and then there was a teacher trying to teach, and we just kind of magically appeared through the floor to them. And they were like probably shocked, and I'm like, oh, and then that's probably why we were getting followed around the whole school. As soon as everybody was leaving, I was the last one to get out of under the school to leave. I felt something grab my calf and pull me back into the school. Like, it wanted me to stay, and I'm like, I can't stay. You stay here. I gotta go.
I'm supposed to be. You can't come with me.
You can't come with me, please. You just stay. And then I never went back because I'm like, if I go back, it's probably gonna come home with me.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm like, I'm good. Like, it actually grabbed my leg and pulled, and I was like, no, I'm good.
Wow, great story. I love that. I have one more question for the group, but I want to give her. Did anybody else have a comment they wanted to share based on that last thing we were talking about that?
I do have one little story. Yeah. So a friend of mine and I, we were out in rural Kentucky. You have very few things to do. So the biggest thing we would do is, jump in the car, go for a car ride, swap stories, whatever. A friend of mine and I were out, and where we were on this back road headed out towards the lake, and we were heading back, and I said, we had felt like something was following us. It's like, if you see anything, just grab the oak handle, and we're gonna take off. In the windshield, I look over on the side of the road, I see a woman in white standing on the side of the road. Hair's covering the face, you can't see anything. I mean, it looked like an actual person standing there. I'm like, okay, this can't be, I can't be seeing this. And I see my buddy reach up, and grab the handle.
Time to go.
I would have been like
Yeah.
screaming.
My foot hit the floor,
Yeah.
and
You just wanted to ride.
Yeah.
no,
No.
that's a hitchhiker I won't pick up.
Good to have those rules. Well, which leads me to, I guess, my last question for our conversation here is, so many people are afraid of this paranormal world, which makes sense why we should be. You have to be careful. But, my general question for the group as we wrap up is, one, are you afraid of it? And if you're not afraid of it, why? How do you convince yourself that, I'm okay. This is good.
Learned about the abilities, and what it's done for me is it's allowed me to help people. Because I can see things prior to them happening. I can read, someone will tell me a story or tell me a dream, and I can interpret. And 95% of the time, it leads to helping them.
Mm-hmm.
Like spiritual energy, that's my thing.
I like
Because
that.
I like to be able to help people and be able to, like I said, interpret what's going on.
Right.
So somebody will call me and say, hey, this was a dream I had. Something's going on, and I'll have them, a lot of times they answer their own questions.
Right.
But using it to help people, that's the biggest thing for me.
It's funny, Zach actually runs into the family. So he does it, Adam does it, I do it sometimes. That's a family thing. And I did message Grandma and asked her, about the generation. She goes, well, now that I've got this whole, our family tree thing, it dates all the way back to 1785. That's as far back as it could be tracked with our family and generations of psychics and everything. So it's way more than a fourth generation. It's like a 300th generation.
So same question to you, Orion, kind of. Does that give you comfort knowing that there's this generational pattern? I would assume for you that would be like, oh, okay, this is a great thing that I have, and not so scary.
As far as being scared, this stuff scares the crap out of me.
Okay.
It scares
Fair.
the crap out of everybody. I mean, if you're just walking and you're washing your dishes and someone just walks up on you and stares at you like, what are you doing? And you're the only one in the house. Yeah, that's going to scare you.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a cool factor. The surprises, the reason I don't watch horror movies is I don't like jump scares. I don't. I block it out. I've learned a really, really good way, just me personally, how to block it out and to ignore it, at least until I decide to tune it in,
Exactly.
And that's a lot of things that a lot of, like kids, they have all of these powers and they have this connection, like me as an example, but I had no idea what it was, how to block it out or anything. It took me many years to figure out how to block it out and to, live my normal life. Now, on occasion, I'll see something like the floating woman in our room the other night who stared at us, smirked, and backed out of our door. Scared the crap out of both of us. And she's freaking out. I'm like, just go back to bed. She goes, how are you sleeping?
I felt it, but I didn't see anything.
I
I
seen
wonder
her.
if it was the lady that lived there previously, because the husband and wife that we bought the house from, she had, when we went to visit or take a tour of the house, when we initially wanted to buy it, she had already been put into assisted living facility because she had daytimers, and he couldn't care for her any longer, and he still lived in the home. And then he passed away like a week after we
He was
bought
in
the house.
hospice when y'all closed on that house.
Because they had to bring the paperwork to him to sign, and the paperwork for her to sign because she was better during the day.
Right.
And they both passed.
And they both
right
passed.
after that.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out how casually you brought up the woman floating over your bed. I just didn't know that. Like, oh yeah, it happens. But I'm terrified of it. But
It's
it
not
happens.
the first. Another instance is there was like I call it a party in our living room. You remember that night? They had a whole freaking party in our living room of spirits. And I woke up to find one. It was like, okay, so my fan is not. It's like not even like 8 inches from the ceiling. And I remember waking up. I was on my side and I rolled up onto my back and I looked up and I seen like an entity perched on one of the fan blades because we don't leave the fan on. That one stays off. Perched over our bed, staring down at both of us. Scared the crap out of me. She was still asleep. And I'm looking up at this like, what in the world?
And he wakes me up. Did you see that? You see that? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to sleep. Go back to bed.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So
what a calming way to wake up.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
He
scared the
was people
crap
laughing all
out of me.
night.
Yeah, the floating woman though, that's definitely the best one so far. Because
Wow.
I seen her, she was in all white dress, floating like 2-3 feet in the air.
You have seen my father a couple times whenever I come over to the house. You actually have sensed him, not.
I sense
walking
him.
down
I
the
just don't
hallway.
see
Yeah,
him.
walking down the hallway.
That's why
I know that you probably seen him. I don't know if you have.
I don't think so.
Not yet.
No.
You remember that
I
night?
smell him and see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my bedroom? The crazy EMF
I've seen
readings
him,
that we
but
were getting
smell
in my bedroom?
Oh,
that night?
yeah. I remember that. I brought my EMF detector in there because you're like, I think something's in the room. So I
Yeah.
brought my EMF detector in there and it was jumping. Now, EMF, to those who don't know, is electromagnetic frequency. Ghosts are said to be made up of that, or static electricity. That's why your hairs stand up on your arms. That's why you get so cold. That's static electricity. Now, machines like computers, refrigerators, anything gives off power, that's static electricity. So these sensors can detect the electricity like your fridge gives off. So if you get a spike and you're next to your fridge, guaranteed it's the fridge. I was in his room, in the middle of the room, and nothing was around me. Nothing was on. I double checked and triple checked, and that thing was jumping 2, 3, 4, 10 milligauss, just crazy jumps.
And we could actually feel it too. Like,
Yeah,
we
I could feel the cold,
feel
the cold
waves.
spots, everything.
Wow.
It was a crazy night. We don't even know what provoked it. It's not like we were doing seances
No.
or
I
anything
just
like
walked
that.
into my bedroom and I was like, it's like it takes the breath out of you
Yeah.
because it smacks you.
It's like they all just moved in that night and they had a freaking party in the living room because there was strange noises. Now we have animals. At the time we had 2 cats and the dog. We have 3 cats now, but just strange noises, footsteps, knockings. Like, oh, maybe it's the cats and stuff, but we don't know.
Yeah.
We were in our room trying to sleep, and then I wake up to see that, and I'm like, hey, welcome to the party.
Well, that happened when I don't know where you were, but the man that built the house, or you say he's there every once in a while.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
sleeping and woke up and I couldn't tell what it was. It was just like a dark figure, and
Yeah, his name was
and it
Mike.
scared
name
the
is Mike.
crap out of me.
What, the current house you're in?
Yeah.
Oh.
The scary thing.
yeah, which is fascinating. And you know me, I'm so curious. I have all these questions, and you guys have answered a lot of them, and I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time to not only come over here and see the house and check out the Phantom History House Bed and Breakfast, but
This is
To-
one of the coolest places
Yeah.
I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
This is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
That's awesome.
well, thank you. We really, really appreciate
You
that.
made
And
Steve blush.
you made me blush. And no, we always like to show what we've been able to build here and try to create that creepy yet comfortable vibe. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to this podcast, and I want to thank all of you guys for taking the time to share your stories and for checking it out. Of course, you can hear this on our website, phantomhistory.com. You can see the pictures of the Phantom History House Bed and Breakfast, and of course, always feel to reach out and sign up to our newsletter, where we always share news and events, and of course, whenever a new podcast drops. Come see us. Hopefully, we can show you the house soon. And thank you again to all of you for coming and sharing your stories. I really loved it.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
We hope to be able to do this again at some point.
Absolutely. Like I said, we just scratched the surface, so we got to schedule this in.
So
So,
many more stories.
so many more. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And until next time, this is Steve Blanchard at Phantom History House in the library, and we will talk to you soon.